Welcome to The Truth About Taxes and Retirement. This podcast is brought to you by SavingYouTaxes.com and hosted by J. Barry Watts. As an advanced tax strategist and enrolled agent federally licensed by the IRS, Barry is uniquely qualified to go deeper into the Internal Revenue Code than most accountants. He understands and interprets its provisions, explaining how they'll help you reduce income taxes you owe so you can direct that previously wasted tax money into tax-free accounts that you can enjoy in your retirement years. Now, on today's episode.
Is $1 million enough to retire on? How about $2 million? In this edition of The Truth About Taxes and Retirement, your host and retirement designer, J. Barry Watts, is going to help you understand that how much you've saved for retirement may not be the most important question. Barry, so good to see you again. Welcome back to another podcast here, a broadcast. It has been a while.
Well, thank you. It has been a while, and I don't know. I guess we could blame that on the writers' strike, because that kept Jimmy Fallon from having any fresh material for a while. So my writer's been on strike too, but my writer's me. So
your writer had some surgery, I understand.
Well, I had shoulder surgery, and that didn't go as planned, and I was down a little longer than I was supposed to. And on top of that, we've just had a tremendous year in our business. It's the biggest year in the history of our business. More clients, more production, more employees, more advisors.
Outstanding.
And all that has to be supervised, And I'm not really oriented toward that. I like talking to people about taxes and retirement planning. And then we're transitioning, doing some interesting marketing things here. We'll soon be launching our radio show every Sunday morning, 8:30 Central on KSGF. You may or may not know that SGF is actually the signal for the Springfield, Missouri airport. So when you are flying into Springfield, Missouri, you're flying into SGF. Well, the radio station that we're going to be on is KSGF every Sunday morning, 8:30 Central. And that starts it actually started back on the first, the first Sunday of the year, the new year. And then in April, we'll be going on the local NBC affiliate, KY3. So we got a lot of exciting things going on, and we're just busy. And my writer at the end of his busyness says, "Oh my goodness, I'm exhausted." And
wait. You were also mentioned in an article, Kiplinger.
Mm-hmm. A Kiplinger article called 3 Ways to Lower Your Taxes in Retirement. And that was my piece.
Familiar. Yeah.
Well, at least I'm staying consistent. So that was my piece that Kiplinger picked up, and that was good. So we're getting some good press out of that. And then there's YouTube. We're regularly releasing content there on the Watts on Wealth channel. So if you go to YouTube and just Google Watts on Wealth or put in my name, J. Barry Watts, it'll take you to our channel there, and you'll be able to see some of the new things that we've released there. So we've just got a lot going on.
You do. You absolutely do. And I never thought I'd see you on YouTube, but it's good stuff.
YouTube kind of owns the Google world anymore. Google and YouTube are the same company, essentially. And Google owns them, I guess. And so we think that's an important place to be. And people are using it more and more. We hear them talking about, hey, I saw this on YouTube, or I saw you on YouTube. And so, we're trying to do a lot more of that. And in fact, this morning, I just approved like 10 videos that were ready to go on YouTube. So we got a lot going on. It's exciting to be out and about in the press.
A media mogul all by yourself.
Well, yeah, so to speak. Just call me Rupert.
Yeah, right. All right. Now, you've got some new thoughts on preparing for retirement, right? Tell us what you've been thinking.
Well, I've been had the same problem that many people in the retirement business had for a number of years, which is I was guilty of accumulation thinking. It's about accumulating more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And then when you get to be 65 or whatever the magic age is, you've accumulated enough. Now you can retire. And the problem is that's illogical, and it's not thoroughly thought out, because what you accumulate really doesn't matter if you can't turn it into a reliable, steady source of income. So the question really isn't how much have you accumulated. The question is, how much income can you create with what you've accumulated, and will that be enough income to meet your needs? How much income can you create with what you've accumulated? Hence the title of today's podcast, which is Planning Your Retirement Income.
And you've been talking on the radio about having a retirement income plan. Tell us more about that.
Well, a retirement income plan is really a step-by-step process that you follow in retirement as you prepare for retirement. And what it does is it helps you to organize your finances in a systematic way so that you can know how much money you'll have hitting your bank account every month from the day you retire until the end of your life, which we always say is age 100. And what it does is it helps you to have confidence in your decision to retire. And that means that you're confident in the income that you'll have every month, this month, 6 months from now, 2 years from now. And if you're confident in what your income looks like, then you can know how much you can spend each month confidently, and you can make plans. I just booked a trip to Europe next summer, taking my parents, taking a cousin of mine. I'm only paying for me and my wife. But our side of that trip, oh my goodness, it caught my breath, just took it right away. By far the most expensive trip we've ever been on, and we've been on some really, really nice trips. So the point is, if you want to travel in retirement, you can't take these kind of trips if you don't know. Know that you know what your income is going to be every month in retirement. And that's what a retirement income plan does for you.
All right. So that reminds me, Barry has developed the 6 steps to retirement confidence. This is a step-by-step process that helps you identify the specific things that might keep you from having a successful retirement, so you can address and eliminate those dangers. It allows you to step into retirement with a sense of confidence because you know for sure whether you've got the income you need to last until age 100, and it allows you to let down your guard. You don't have to be afraid of the unknown retirement boogeymen who might crop up, because you've already addressed those problems. If you'd like to have a conversation with Barry to talk about your own 6 steps to retirement confidence, pick up the phone today and call 417-882-1726. Tell the person that answers the phone that you listen to the podcast and you want to learn more about the 6 steps to retirement confidence. They'll schedule a time for you to talk with one of the advisors at the Wealth Care Corporation. You might even get Barry. Sometimes people are surprised when they do. And they'll walk you through those 6 steps to prepare you for retirement. You can visit the website at www.savingyoutaxes.com or by calling 417-882-1726. That's 417-882-1726. Pick up your phone, call today. So Barry, where does it start? When are we ready to address the issue of whether we have enough retirement income, and how do we begin?
Well, I think the first thing to do, Patrice, is to analyze how much income you're going to need in retirement. And we call that your sitting on the porch number. Sitting on the porch number. Now, in retirement, you may or may not want to sit on the porch, and that's perfectly valid. But the point is, if you're retired, you could just sit on the porch if that's what you chose to do. And if that were the case, how much money would you need deposited into your bank account every month in order to pay all of your bills? That's your sitting on the porch number. So the first thing we do is isolate that number. And then we go and start looking for your sources of guaranteed income. Now, the most common source of guaranteed income is Social Security. And then some people have pensions on top of Social Security. And then some people are trust fund babies. Maybe they get a check from grandpa's trust fund every month or something like that. Or maybe you've got a 30-year lease on a commercial building that's putting $3,000 a month into your checking account or whatever it happens to be. So we're looking for sources of guaranteed income. Social Security, pensions, and then whatever other sources that might bring you money that you can always count on to be there. You take your sitting on the porch number and you subtract those sources of guaranteed income, and whatever number is left, that's your shortfall. That's the amount of money that you have to cover each month out of the savings that you have accumulated as you planned for retirement. And this is the point that it's kind of like, spreading pizza dough. Every once in a while we make pizza at home. We really go all out. All my friends on the East Coast, particularly my Italian friends, will appreciate the fact that we usually get it out of the Chef Boyardee box. and instead of a pizza pan, we're using a cookie sheet and we're smearing it to the edges, makes all of our pieces square. But so I'm working with that pizza dough and just trying to stretch it. And the more you stretch it, the thinner it gets, and some spots it leaks through. Well, we don't want your retirement plan to have any holes in it. So unlike the pizza dough, we want to stretch it to the edges to all the way to age 100, but we can't afford for it to have any holes in it. And hopefully, if we get it stretched all the way to age 100, there's even enough money left at 100 that means that we stretched it well and we had enough income that we'll be able to also take care of your long-term care needs that may come up. Or if we've already done that, when there's still going to be, a couple of $1 million when you're 100 years old, well, that means you can spend more live a higher lifestyle if you wanted to. It means you can give more, support the causes that are important to you. And it means you can leave more, give more to the people that you care about. So that's how we begin the process. And that is step number one in the 6 steps to retirement confidence, is being sure that you've got income to age 100.
The stock market, though, Barry, it's volatile. Interest rates right now, the way the Fed's talking, they just might be coming down. And what does that mean for a retiree? How can they create additional guaranteed income?
Well, interest rates are coming down, and I think that does mean that it's going to be a little bit harder to create retirement income. The way we create guaranteed retirement income is the exact same way that companies build pensions for retirees. Now, you may or may not know it, but when you retire from one of the big companies that has a pension plan, that company in most cases does not manage their own pension plan. It may come to you in the form of a check that's got their logo on top of it, but behind it, the people who are doing all the math and figuring out how much pension you get and making sure your check comes are the folks at an insurance company. Your employer has contracted with that insurance company to manage your pension check. And the pension check is actually coming from an insurance company. And it's the same thing, by the way, if you ever won a lawsuit. I had a client one time who had he got in an electrical line. And you can imagine when you're 25 years old and you get in an electrical line with a ladder or something that he was handling. Well, it's kind of a life-changing event for him. And he's missing some limbs and some digits and all sorts of things. And so he gets this really large monthly check. And they made it really large because they weren't planning on paying it very long, because supposedly they'd cooked his innards and he wouldn't live very long. Well, today he's 60 years old. So he's been drawing this check for 40 years and he looks like he's going to live forever. Well, that check, though it was a settlement of a lawsuit, the check actually comes from an insurance company. So what happens is the retiring company that you're leaving, or the lawsuit company that you won a lawsuit against, they take a big lump sum, they write a check to the insurance company and hand it to them. And the insurance company says, hey, we'll take care of making the payments from now on. So here's what you need to know. When it comes to creating a retirement pension check for yourself, this is a very good time to do it, because currently interest rates are still relatively high. Mm-hmm. And during times of high interest payments, high interest rates, you can create monthly pension checks by putting less money in than at times when interest rates are lower. For example, just use this in your brain. These aren't real numbers. I'm just going through it with you. Let's say that you wanted $2,000 a year well, I did that backwards. Let's do it this way. Let's say you want to put $100,000 in and interest rates are 5%. So on an annual basis, you can get $5,000 back out for your $100,000. Now, let's say interest rates fall to 2%. Oh, well, now, if you want to get $5,000 out, you're going to have to put in over $200,000. I believe the number will be $250,000 to get the same amount of pension check out of it that you could have gotten out with $100,000 if you'd just done it a few months earlier. So if you're interested in creating a private pension for yourself, now's the time you need to be acting, and we can help you with that at the Wealth Care Corporation.
All right. I got a question for you. It came to mind the other day. Social Security, it's a part of a retirement income plan for basically everybody. Different ages, you can take Social Security, okay? 62, 65, quack, 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 quack. I heard about a person, though, who didn't take Social Security until they were 73. What does that mean? The checks don't get any bigger that late, do they? And can you take Social Security retroactively?
Well, what happened there is that person messed up, because your Social Security check does grow every year until you're 70 years old. And at 70 years old, your Social Security check does not grow anymore. So the absolute latest date that you should take your Social Security is when you turn 70 years old. And in the case of the person who had turned 73 years old, well, they just gave 3 years worth of money back to the federal government is what they did, because they're not going to get any larger check for that last 3 years. Now, to the question of, can you take Social Security retroactively? Can you go back and ask to be paid back pay on Social Security? Yes. The good news is, yes, you absolutely can, for a period of 6 months. So they could go back to 72 and a half. But that means that they still lost 2.5 years between age 70 and between age 72 and a half. And they cannot recover that. But if you have taken Social Security, or you didn't take Social Security when you ought to, and you want to go back, Social Security Administration will work with you on that and go back a period of 6 months to make that happen.
Still, you've lost that time.
That's precisely it. And you can never recover that. So you need to pay attention to these things. Patrice, we have people all the time who just make mistakes. In fact, as I was walking into the studio to make this podcast recording, I got stopped by one of my team members here who had a problem with a client who'd made a mistake. Their pension plan was paying out. They were being forced to take the money out. And so they came to meet with us, and we talked to them about what we're going to do and how we're going to fix the problem. And so no problem, they said they would take care of it. And in this case, they said, we'll fill the paperwork out. I'll fill the paperwork out, and I'll just get the check sent to me, and then I'll bring the check to you. Well, when they filled the paperwork out, instead of checking the box that said, I want to treat this as a rollover, which meant it would be going into their IRA, they checked the box that says, I want to treat this as a distribution.
No.
And so in their case, they got like $200,000 distributed out of their pension plan. The first thing that the government did is withheld 20% of it in taxes. And it's done. You can't go backwards on that once it's happened. So this person now has 80% as much money as they thought they were going to get. And they're probably going to have a bigger tax bill come next April because they did it the way they did, and they completed the forms wrongly. Now, the point is they shouldn't have completed the forms at all. They should have brought the forms to us, let us complete the forms for them, and then they sign the forms. And that way we would have made sure it was handled as a rollover. So my point is, whether it's being late to take your Social Security check or whether it's just screwing up your distribution, and that's what this overly confident person did, there are just little dumb mistakes you make that can cost you, in her case, $40,000 just because she checked the wrong box. If you don't do this every day, and there is a chance you could check the wrong box, then quit checking boxes and hire it to a professional box checker. And hand it over to somebody like us who does this and who knows what those terms mean, because some of these decisions are irrevocable and you can't fix them. You can't get that 2.5 years back. In her case, she can't get that 20% back.
Wow. All right. So one of the first things is to be sure you've got your retirement income plan completed, and you can be confident then of your income. Good, fine. But are you ready to retire then? Is there something we're missing here? Is there something more we should really consider? Well,
you're financially ready to retire. If your retirement income plan is completed, you can, and it looks good, you are financially ready to retire, but there's a whole nother readiness, and that is psychological readiness. And I'll tell you that I have more people in my practice who are not psychologically ready to retire than I do who are not financially ready to retire. When I talk about psychological readiness, it really is this: thinking about what you're retiring to instead of just what you're retiring from. Are you really ready for daylight to come next Monday and you don't have to get out of bed anymore? Now, sometimes that sounds kind of nice. I'm at the end of this surgery experience I just came through, and I've kind of worked my way through all of it. And I think not having to get out of bed would be a really great thing. But the simple fact is I can't sleep that late anyway, so it probably wouldn't matter. So the point is, are you ready to have a day where you have nothing to do? No demands made on you, nowhere you have to go. Sounds blissful, but really think about it. Once you've done that for 2 or 3 or 5 days or 2 or 3 or 5 weeks, are you going to begin to get a little bit itchy? And here's another readiness issue. Are you relationally ready to retire? Because, guys, one of the things that I hear your wives say all the time is, I don't want him around the house that much. Because apparently, if you've been away working, your wife's been a homemaker, perhaps she has a routine, that she goes through. She plays tennis on this day. She mows the yard on this day. She tends the flowers on this day. She goes to the bridge club on that day. Whatever the things happen to be. My wife's got all those kinds of things. And I know that if I just jumped in and tried to pretend that every day was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which are the days I spend with her, well, what she would say to me is, Barry, I don't have time to get my stuff done. So is your spouse relationally ready for you to retire? That's another question that you ought to ask, in addition to, are you financially ready?
Not just your spouse relationally ready. Are you ready to be told, would you please just back off?
Right. That's true. I mean, if she's been doing it all these years, in my case, because Kelly's been the one at home, there are things that she does that it's like it's her turf and it's not my job. The lawnmower is her mower. It's Kelly's mower. And she loves that. And I love that. So it works out really well, but don't mess with Kelly's mower.
I love it too. All right. So what's different about saving for retirement while you're working versus transitioning into retirement in your non-working years?
Well, simple, Patrice. The actions you take to build a retirement nest egg are distinctly different from the actions that you take to start distributing that nest egg in a way that it will last until you're 100 years old. Or another way to say that is what gets you to retirement will not get you through retirement. You have to use a different strategic approach to the distribution phase of your life. And if you've been working with a retirement person, probably a investment person would be my guess, who's been helping you accumulate this money for all of these years so that you could retire, if they're investment specialists, they probably are not retirement and distribution specialists. That's a whole different bag of tricks. Mm-hmm. And you need to be working with someone who has sat with people who are retiring and planned out this income phase we're talking about in order to be sure that you're going to have enough income to last over your lifetime and be distributed until you're 100 years old. It's just a different bag of tricks.
Talk a little bit more about the things that change with savings, though, when we get into retirement.
Well, you're no longer adding to your retirement. You begin taking away from your retirement. It's no longer about growing your retirement nest egg. It's about taking income from the nest egg that you've already grown and withdrawing, hopefully in a way that doesn't erode your nest egg. So it's, you're not just putting it in there and watching it grow. It gets fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. You're actually beginning to take away from it. And the goal, if we can make it happen, the goal is to withdraw from it, but the nest egg never gets skinnier. That is perfect. Now, for some people, they're like, no, I want a skinnier nest egg. Okay, they want to spend more so they can withdraw more. And in that case, the goal is just to be sure that the nest egg doesn't skinny down all the way to zero before you get to be age 100. So everybody's got a different agenda. Some people have kids. Some people don't have kids. If you don't have kids, you don't have anybody you love, nobody that you have to leave money to. The way that you think about distributing your retirement income is totally different than someone who has a spouse and children and nieces and nephews that they're wanting to take care of. They think about it differently. In fact, when people are sitting across the table from me, one of the things that I ask them has to do with ultimately their financial legacy and what they want to leave. How important is it? And some people are like, oh, that's terribly important. I want to leave something to my kids. And other people are like, oh, no, I don't want to leave them a dime. So it's just very interesting. Different people have different perspectives. And this is why you can't take one retirement plan and force it on everybody. Because the guy who doesn't want to leave anything is in a total different position from the woman who has nieces, nephews, and children that she wants to leave something to. And you have to customize the retirement distribution plan to meet all of those needs.
What other questions do you ask potential new clients to help them with this transition from working to retirement?
Well, I always start with that sitting on the porch number. What is your sitting on the porch number? So if you're going to call me, you're going to sit with me, you need to know, you're going to have to know you're sitting on the porch number. So let's get on with it. Second question I ask is this. I say, we're going to hire Norman Rockwell. And sometimes I have to explain who Norman Rockwell is. In fact, I've got a young early 20s employee. He has no idea who Norman Rockwell is.
Are you kidding me?
No, he has no clue who Norman Rockwell is. They also don't know who Merle Haggard is, by the way. That's another topic. But, it's just not been relevant in their life. So what I say is we're going to hire Norman Rockwell, bring him back from the dead, and he's going to paint a painting of your life in retirement. Now, I want you to tell me everything that you're going to tell Norman to put in the picture. And I'll always remember the guy who said the suitcase is packed and by the door, because he was going to travel. Had a guy last week. He came in and we actually showed him his Norman Rockwell picture. That's the first thing we do in the planning process is we put up the Norman Rockwell picture. And there on the Norman Rockwell picture was a new truck hooked up to a new travel trailer. And there was a big John Deere tractor. And there were grandkids playing in the yard. And there was a lake and so forth. And he looked at me and he said, you really did listen, didn't you? Yeah, dude, that's our job. We listen because we're planning not our retirement, not the way we want it to go. We're planning it for you and the things that you say that you want done. And the third question then I always ask is simply this. Suppose we're sitting here 3 years from today. Tell me what has to have happened in your life financially in order for you to feel satisfied with the progress that you've made. 3 years from today, what has to have happened? Think about it yourself. 3 years from today, what has to have happened? In order for you to feel satisfied with the progress that you've made. That really gets to clarity. And when people will say those things and allow me to write them down, well, now I've got marching orders and I know where to move this and where to take it in the direction that we need to go in order that they get the retirement that they want to.
Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. And there it is, folks. It's wonderful. If you'd like help figuring out your own sitting on the porch number, thinking through what you'd tell Norman Rockwell to paint in your retirement picture, and identifying what absolutely has to have happened over the past 3 years in order for you to feel satisfied with the financial progress you've made, reach out to Barry Watts and the team of specialists at the WealthCare Corporation. You can call right now. Just dial 417-882-1726. And when you do, they'll set a time for you to talk with Barry or one of the other advisors at WealthCare to help you get started on your journey to retirement confidence. Visit their website at www.savingyoutaxes.com or pick up the phone, call 417-882-1726. They'll take good care of you like they've taken care of my family member who I referred to the WealthCare Corporation. Again, the phone number, 417-882-1726. And that's it for this episode of The Truth About Taxes and Retirement. But do me a favor. If you think the podcast would be helpful or enjoyable for your friends or family, would you click on the share button and send a link to the people you care about most? Or post it to social media so your friends and family can get the same benefits you do from listening. Thanks. I would really appreciate that. Until next time, I'm Patrice Sikora for retirement planning expert J. Barry Watts here on The Truth About Taxes and Retirement. Thanks for listening today. This podcast is a production of the WealthCare Corporation, found on the web at savingyoutaxes.com. The concepts discussed are for informational and educational purposes only and should not be implemented without first consulting with your own legal, tax, and investment counsel. This has not been an offer to buy, sell, or invest in securities, and this information is to be taken as educational concepts, not as specific advice for you. The lawyers and regulators like for us to remind you that all investment involves risk and you could lose money. Past performance is never a guarantee of future results. Tax strategy services are provided by American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
Thank you for listening to The Truth About Taxes and Retirement podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of SavingYouTaxes.com. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional tax and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your own qualified advisor with any questions you may have regarding taxes and investing.